petty meets positivity, but positive mostly. Blocking out negative energy, spreading love, light, growth, healing, positive vibrations only. It's Tarandom Talk. It's Tarandom Talk. It's Tarandom Talk. Say it with me, y'all. Hey, it's Tarandom Talk. It's Tarandom Talk. It's Tarandom Talk.
Welcome to episode 11 of Tarandom Talk. It is the week of June 16th, 2019. So today we will be talking about Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day. Now, if you don't know what Juneteenth is, or perhaps you may need a refresher, no worries. I got you. Let's get into it. Juneteenth is actually the oldest known celebration commemorating the ending of slavery in the United States of America. It was actually on June 19th, 1865, that the Union soldiers, who were led by Major General Gordon Granger, they arrived in Galveston, Texas, with the news that the Civil War had ended and that slaves had gained their freedom. Now, mind you, this was a whole 2.5 years after President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which became official on January 1st, 1863. But because the Texans had so few Union troops, no one was really enforcing the executive order that had been given, which sounds about Texas. So it wasn't until after Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Union General Ulysses S. Grant. I'm sure all of these names sound familiar, like you're probably reaching back in your memory to like world history, or I guess American history, U.S. history, and thinking like, yeah, that sounds about right. But after he surrendered to Union General Ulysses S. Grant on April 9th, 1865, that's when the Union forces were finally strong enough to influence and overcome the resistance. Now, there have been several theories as to why it took so long for the slaves to be freed in Texas. So one theory is that the messenger who was on the way to Texas with the news of freedom was murdered, which, that one doesn't really sound that far-fetched. My only thing is, if that's true, that was a dummy mission to begin with. In my opinion, like, why would you send one person with that kind of news? No? That's just weird. But another theory is that slave owners deliberately withheld the information to maintain the labor force on the plantations. And, that sounds about white. And then a final theory is that it was the federal troops who actually waited for the slave owners, just so they could reap the benefits of one last cotton harvest before going to Texas to enforce the Emancipation Proclamation. Shocker. Now, that last one actually reminds me of when I worked for a company called Electrolux, for over 5 years. And there was an incident with me and my manager at the time, which ultimately led to my termination, which, by the way, is the one and only job that I have ever been fired from. I want to note that. But they let me work the whole day following the incident before firing me like 30 minutes before my shift ended. And I've heard of other people in various fields, having the same thing happen to them, where employers wait for, certain projects or assignments to be completed and then being terminated immediately after. Like, ain't that a bitch? And Ulysses S. Granted, I probably needed that extra day on my check, hence my new unemployment status and all. But damn, y'all really watched me work all day, go to break, go to lunch, come back, work some more, and then fired my ass right before my shift was about to end. Like, that shit is so crazy to me. But like always, things work itself right on out. I end up getting hired at Jared's just a few weeks later and met the love of my life. So put that in your vacuum cleaners and suck it. Now, obviously, I'm not comparing getting fired from a paid job and slaves being given their freedom. Obviously, there is no comparison. But what I'm saying is, if a major corporation who is actually paying you for your labor, if they'll let you continue to work knowing fully well that they're going to let you go. You know damn well they made them slaves work as for free as long as they could, which, really is just disgusting and inhumane, but
this is America,
which is rooted and built on hatred and oppression. But I mean, even though there was a long road to be traveled by our ancestors, and really still even us today, in this seemingly never-ending battle for equality and civil rights, on June 19th, 1865, my people, our people, were finally able to celebrate freedom, rejoice, and be glad in it. Mini meditation. So, for today's mini meditation, I couldn't think of a better song choice than that of the Negro National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. It was actually written as a poem by James Weldon Johnson in 1900 and then set to music by his brother, John Rosamond Johnson, back in 1905. Now, of course, there have been countless renditions throughout the years, but the one I'm playing today is by far one of my favorites. So, y'all, please just take the next few minutes to reflect on how America's history of racially based slavery has really shaped our society, and also remember all of those, and even those whose names we do not even know, who fought so bravely and so fiercely in the past, so that way we could have a better future today.
Lift every voice and sing, earth, heaven, ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies resound the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. March on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod to the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn has died, yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers died. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughter, out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our wearies, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk of the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand. True to our God, true to our God, true to our native land, true to our native land.
Tarandom Talk will be back after this brief message. So, not only are we celebrating Juneteenth this week, we're also celebrating Father's Day. So, I wanted to take this moment to give a huge shout out to my dad, Anthony Smalley, for raising me and taking care of me my whole life. Thank you for everything that you've done for me. I'd also like to give a very special shout out to my husband, Bryce Wilson, for being the best dad and bonus dad to our 3 children that I could possibly ask for. We love you so much. And I'd like to wish all of the fathers out there a very happy Father's Day. You guys keep up the great work. You're doing a phenomenal job. You rock. It is time for karaoke. Well, it's actually more like spoken word today. And, typically we'd sing along to a topic-related song, but I'm switching it up a little bit today. If you've ever attended a Juneteenth celebration, chances are you probably heard a reading of the Emancipation Proclamation. You probably sung some old Negro spirituals such as Lift Every Voice and Sing, which we heard in today's mini meditation. And you probably heard some readings from African American writers such as the late, great Maya Angelou, who was not only a poet and singer, but she was also a memoirist and civil rights activist. So today, we shall listen to one of my absolute favorite poems ever, Still I Rise.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Just because I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just because I laugh, as if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your lies, you can kill me with your hatefulness, but just like life, I'll rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh. Does it come as a surprise that I dance as if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling and bearing in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, wow. There I go.
Again, that was Maya Angelou with Still I Rise. And y'all, Miss Angelou is a whole mood, like a whole vibe. That's literally one of the most powerful and empowering poems of all times. And initially, I was going to recite it myself And then I was like, nah. Her delivery and her essence is just so unmatched. So I was like, nah, I'm just going to let her have it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that as well. But, I'm sure that's a direct result of her being born and raised in the early to mid 1900s. Like, not only was that post-slavery abolishment, during a time of heightened racial tension and social injustices, but also during the Great Depression. So, I'm sure that was challenging economically as well. But she speaks so eloquently about being able to persevere and overcome any obstacles that came her way, and not letting what was or even what is discourage her from finding out what could be, and then having the wherewithal to be confident, courageous, and resilient in the face of adversity. And to me, that's just so inspiring, and it's also timeless, because even now, a whole 154 years after slaves were given their freedom, we are still facing a lot of the same struggles that our ancestors faced. We still live in a society of systemic racism, racial bias, prejudices, discrimination, and white privilege. Damn near every day you read stories or hear about black people that are being racially profiled, publicly humiliated, and basically being targets of racial microaggressions for living while black. I mean, you got Gucci selling blackface turtlenecks and calling it designer. You got Prada selling Sambo keychains and calling it art. Burberry got models on the runway with hoodies and nooses around their necks calling it high fashion. And then let's not even talk about H&M putting our young black king in apparel that says coolest monkey in the jungle and calling it advertisement. And like, as awful and as insensitive as all of those things are, the police brutality and senseless murders of black people is far, far worse. Like, just here recently, we have Willie McCoy, who was shot at 55 times after being found sleeping in his car in a Taco Bell parking lot. Like 55 times, because he had a handgun in his lap, and when they woke him up, they thought that he was reaching for it, which, quite frankly, is a natural reaction. You sleep, and y'all didn't even give this man a chance to react before y'all shot at him 55 times. A whole, like, y'all got training, and everybody felt that threat, and like, that's just so excessive and so ridiculous. Anyway, but then there's also, just this past week, Brandon Weber. He was shot at, and I think shot actually, approximately about 20 times, while being served warrants in his family's yard. It's just crazy. And now they've been added to a very long list of other victims, who suffered a similar fate. You got Philando Castile, Alton Sterling, Tamir Rice, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Corinne Gaines, and, that's just to name a few, along with our queen, Sandra Bland, who we all know did not commit suicide. And, even in the cases where the former suspects now turn victims, they might have been being pursued or apprehended for alleged crimes. But it's just amazing how all tactical training goes out the window, and the same ones who are supposed to serve and protect, they become so threatened and so fearful for their own safety and their own lives that deadly measures have to be taken. And then meanwhile, you got white mass murderers like Dylan Roof, who are not only apprehended safe and sound, but get treated to Burger King. But when you shoot up a historical black church in America, I guess you really can have it your way. Y'all,
This is America.
there's still so much work that needs to be done, and I really wish I knew what the correct approach was. Peaceful protesting, that's all well and good, but to me, it doesn't feel like it's been effective. Ranting and raving on social media and the hashtags, they definitely increase awareness, which is important. But considering the frequent reoccurrence of these events, I'm not sure how effective that has been as far as actual change goes. I do know that having these kind of uncomfortable conversations is essential when it comes to recognizing and dismantling oppressive systems and institutions. But we're at a point now where there has to be less talking and more doing. Like, we have to take action. Today and every day, we must honor the sacrifices of our ancestors and remain committed to the work that's ahead. We've come so far, I won't deny that, but we still definitely have such a long way to go. And I say it often, y'all probably tired of hearing me saying it, but, we must be the change that we want to see. We have to think about our future generations and what changes we can make today that will yield a better tomorrow, just as our predecessors did for us. And I'll be honest, sometimes I'm doubtful that things will ever be as they should be. Because of our history and the divisiveness that's still so prominent today, it can feel like the more things change, the more they stay the same. Although I doubt that racism will ever disappear, it may dwindle, but I'm doubtful that it'll ever disappear entirely because, let's be real, there's always going to be hateful bigots passing down their idiotic beliefs of supremacy to their offspring and their offspring's offspring. So, I am a little doubtful, but, mostly I feel hopeful. I'm hopeful that eventually we as people will be able to be tolerant and accepting of those who are different than ourselves, and at least be able to live and coexist peacefully without racially motivated malice or violence. And really the only way that can happen is if we channel our inner Maya Angelou and rise. We must rise above the negativity because darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. We must be understanding and compassionate for those who are ignorant and need us to teach them a better way, because hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And we must be vigilant in our mission to make the world a better place for ourselves and others alike. And we must rise up to each and every challenge that we face on a daily basis, no matter how unfair and how undeserving they are. Like, that's just what we got to do. But on that note, here's Andra Day with Rise Up.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, I like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. The silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet. Move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And for that we have each other. And we will rise, we will of the A, I will rise 1,000 times again, and we'll rise up. I like the waves. We'll rise up in spite of the ache. We'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again.
That concludes this week's episode. I really hope that you guys found it both informative and enlightening. More importantly, I hope that each and everyone who listens to this episode will recognize not only the importance of acknowledging and celebrating Juneteenth annually, but also the necessity of carrying the torch. Give light, and people will find the way. As always, you can listen in to Tarandom Talk each and every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time at www.520-radio.com. And of course, every episode will be posted on YouTube and the Podbean app each and every Thursday. As always, thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate you guys. But in the meantime, in between time, keep going, keep growing, keep feeling, keep healing. Sending love, light, and positive vibrations to you all.
It's Tarandom Talk. It's Tarandom Talk. It's Tarandom Talk. Say it with me, y'all. Hey, it's Tarandom Talk. It's Tarandom Talk. It's Tarandom Talk.